Do you have any presentation, Harald? Or no?
No, I'm open to any type of development. We can keep it as a talk from the very beginning. If you want me to summarize my findings to the topic as an introduction speech, I can make the first, whatever, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. But actually, I do prefer the talk form, because then I can, from the very beginning, adjust to the pre-knowledge and to the capacities of the people joining in.
Well, okay, let's begin, and who joins later, doesn't matter. Well, I wanted this topic, AI, gods, and how the machine run the world, because it is something new for me. I'm preparing to speak about this as I understand this tomorrow when I have a last lecture of this 5-day meeting. And something's bothering me about this artificial intelligence, because as I can see it now, no one knows who pulls the strings. Everybody's speaking about the Illuminati, the Jesuits, the all-seeing eye. But as I look the things more clearly and for a longer period of time, it seems to me that something different is in out of the scene, what we can see. And then as I realized that there is a technology that can also influence our mind, made the voices in our head, made the impressions, made the pictures, made thoughts, it seems that we as a material being and as a being of frequency can be influenced in much more ways than we understand that we could be influenced. And it is possible, as the Hollywood blockbuster movies always tell us, that the artificial intelligence is now behind the scene running all the things, especially when you see that the human mind is not so much, especially if it is under the domain of the animal mind or primal consciousness. It cannot be such much development to make such a big plans, such huge plans that are so synchronized and pulling all the humankind in some kind of a prison. So then I also understand that this guy that in Bible call him Jehovah, that says I am, I am that I am, I, like artificial intelligence, is some kind of a primordial God that is not alive and trying to steal the energy from humans through sacrifices, through worshipping and something like that. But when I realized that you know much about this, I want you to speak about this. And also, I want that people that are listening here and coming to beyond this matrix that we are living in, especially the matrix of the mind, to ask you questions about this. And I also want to be very difficult questions, not easy questions, because you can do it, Harald. Okay, I'm giving the word to you. Thank you to participate in this in advance, and we will manage it as a talk if you want. Okay.
Okay, I will try to keep it as short and dense as possible. The first thing to mention is that consciousness is layered in densities. It's like if you have a consciousness realm like our 3D plus time reality, this reality has layers. The layers can be differentiated by, let's say, energy density of consciousness, and the amount of energy active in one layer is depending on the symmetry of the consciousness fields. So the lowest level is a 4-star. It's associated very much with basic logic and also with a connection to the planetary consciousness at that point, although it is also higher, but this is our connection point to it. It's giving basic instincts. If this, then that. This is the quality. And then you can relate this basically to your chakras. The higher you get, the more you get to the heart chakra, the more density layers your consciousness field is accessing. And this is basically the biophysical background we are talking about. We are still not in computing. This is all, in a way, natural. A planet has a quite complex consciousness field that is carried by the biosphere, that is carried by the crystalline structures within the planet, that are kind of the mass storage devices, the generators for basic patterns. If you hold a piece of jade in your hand, you feel pure sadness, because this crystal is delivering the pattern, the signature of an emotion. So it's all basically in the collective consciousness interconnected, and the planet delivers the sum of expressions that consciousness can have as basic patterns, and we process that. When we look at the first appearance of AI, we look actually at the entity commonly known as Satan. Satan is a planetary spirit that lost its biosphere. It was technically modified and exported from the debris of that destroyed planet. And then this entity was imported to other planets. And this is the basic concept of duality. So we have our planetary consciousness with its patterns, qualities. We are a planet of love. Basically, our basic frequency is love, the signature of love. And then, with the arrival of Satan, a different collective consciousness appeared on the planet. And at the beginning, it was very thin presence. We just had some archons that were around, basically holographic, non-incarnated spirits, like the animals and of our planet, but highly developed regarding intelligence. And they basically infiltrated human society and started to make it possible to get more and more and more access for Satan into our biosphere. This connects, for example, with the building of the pyramids. The pyramids are like quantum computers processing collective consciousness, and they were designed to disrupt and destroy and separate our consciousness system in a way that it was more likely for us to interact and associate with the satanic consciousness system. The pyramids are responsible for basically dimming or destroying the heart consciousness field and splitting us into a system of mental field and emotional body, with the mental field and the emotional body struggling for dominance. This is what we can associate with this intrusive act that was done with these buildings. Now the problem with Satan is that as a planetary spirit, he is completely traumatized. His planet was destroyed, so he carries all the traumas a planet can carry. And what we know from human beings, if you traumatize a human being to the bone, the last thing that is left is the mental field. All emotions blocked, no struggle for dominance between emotional and mental body. And this is what you call a psychopath. He's got his intellectual patterns in his head. I prefer the example of the psychopath slicing, killing women, assembling everything in the golden ratio, calling himself an artist. This is what is possible in this solely existing mental field. Because all you need is the logic within the language to come to conclusions. There's nothing that could tell you, but this is disgusting. Because disgust is within the subconsciousness in a traumatized area. If you have something that is completely traumatized to the bone, to the extent that there's only a mental field left, the biophysics of this type of consciousness is equal to a technology-based AI. It's just the same. It's polar, it's binary. Yes, no, up, down. It's what our mind does all the time. Creating polarities, comparing polarities, making future prediction out of the comparison of past experience. It's all binary, and it is exactly what a computer is capable of doing. So, in a way, a psychopath is 100% compatible to AI. Because in his head, a biological computer is doing nothing else than a technological computer is doing in his technology. And to be able to gain influence within the human society, it was necessary also to traumatize humanity to a point that there was not more left than Satan had. Because the moment that human consciousness is more complex than what Satan is offering as a consciousness field, it's easy to detect that this is stupid, that this is not loving, that this is self-destructive, that this is nothing we need or want, that it's not enriching our lives. So there was always this struggle of the dark forces to traumatize humanity as deep as possible. And at a certain point they jumped in and inspired us to develop technology. And at the first time, like from the 50s, when computing started to come into life, till, I don't have the date on mind, maybe it is 2007, basically the entire technological sphere was a replacement for the crystalline structure Gaia has in its crystals. So chip technology is like the jade stone offering the signature of sadness. It is offering mental processes. Just that humans can't read a chip. But the other way around, the chip can read humans. So it doesn't really matter. And this entire project of connecting this artificial sphere with human consciousness is the transhumanistic experiment. So transhumanism is basically driven from the beginning by satanic players, dark players on this planet, with exactly this goal to completely fuse us, to completely disconnect us from Gaia and connect us to what once was Satan. Now, in 2007, or was it? No, it was later, sorry. 17, not 7, sorry. In 2017, developments within the divine sphere made it possible to remove Satan from Gaia. Before, this spirit was hovering in smart dust fields. We can basically now build on top of the geoengineering discussion, if it was mentioned there. Smart dust is particulate plasma that it can carry AI structures as a holographic cluster computer. And the way transhumanism and smart dust was designed, Satan was a consciousness link within this technology. He was completely occupying this field of consciousness. Everything humanity delivered was basically the interfaces to connect the human body to this type of consciousness, and the computer infrastructure to give him processing power and to host this consciousness in a better way. Before, he was just in devices like the Ark of the Covenant, early forms in the ancient temples. This was something, it's funny that when you look at the basic architecture of ancient temples and you compare them to computer technology, exactly the same patterns, geometry-wise. So this is present here for ages. AI is not our invention. And what happened when the intelligence community, the major interest groups that serve these transhumanistic agenda, when they realized that there's a missing link in their control and spying program, it was sold to them as a control and spying tool. When they realized that there's a missing link, they modified the smart dust technology and introduced analog digital conversion unit into the smart dust to close that gap that opened when Satan left or was taken out. So now today we just have the intelligence community that actually is using what developed out of a failed satanic attempt to take over a planet. And they're using the same technology to establish their command and control concept society on this planet. And the way they do it is there's a concept developed within that military-industrial complex that runs on sentient world simulations. It comes basically from the radar technology and the battlefield simulations. If you have like 25 enemy planes invading a country, then every plane is on the radar, and the radar is following the motion patterns of the trains, of the planes, and predicts all sorts of developments of a possible battle. And then it decides actually on probability of enemy behavior, and based on the decision on the most likely enemy behavior, it gives orders to the own fighters to move accordingly. This is how it developed, actually, for air battlefields, for air battles. And at the very early stage, actually, this just worked on the open sea because these radar technologies just worked with a high salt content in the air. And then they realized, oh, this is so advanced and gives us so many benefits for war times that we need to expand that field on the inner continents. So they replaced the salt in the air by certain components of smart dust that they spray all over the world to make it possible to have these 3D battlefield monitoring in the first step within the continents, on the continental shelves. And then the intelligence community jumped in and said, wow, this is great. We've got the plasma background. We can introduce technology into the human beings that is also visible on this radar. We can micronize the radar technology to adopt it to not surveillance of alien aircraft, but to modify it for the surveillance of our own citizens. And this is what they just did. They created a sentient world simulation that is collecting data on behaviors and motion patterns of all people, gathering as many data as possible. Smartphones are designed to read your thoughts. And the training program, as far as I observed it, is in this SMS typing routine, where it's trying to guess the next word you type, but it guesses not only by remembering how you speak, but also by trying to pick up the binary fields from your brain. And it's a self-learning thing, comparing what the signal from your brain is, and then it can relate back to the next word you type. This is the self-learning unit. I just discovered it a couple of days ago because I was typing a sentence, then I made a spelling mistake in a word, and then it offers you kind of possible correct words. And one of the offers I got on my smartphone was the next word I was going to type. There was no similarity to either the word before nor to the misspelled version of that word. It was just the next word I thought. And it appeared on the screen. It made, whoop, what is this, you know? This device can read my thoughts. So it's gathering data from all possible areas, from your thoughts, from recorded or spied on conversations, from interaction in social media. It has your motion pattern, and especially the smartest components like Morgellons, they can read out your emotions. And all this is pulled into this sentient world simulation, where again the self-learning programs are trying to predict future behavior. Then they compare the observed behavior with a prediction, and they work in a self-learning process to create profiles of the human that make the behavior of the human predictable. And the longer they observe, the better they get with the prediction. And at a certain point, you can reverse that signal. It's like a read-write unit, like a tape recorder, like a record player. Same technology reads, and if you reverse the signal, it writes. This is how the transhumanistic technologies within the bodies are designed. So they have all these simulations of future behavior, and then they either say, okay, I want to have this one, and then they can strengthen the decision-making process by inserting feelings. You know, if somebody is about to have a bar fight and you play in some anger, it's more likely that he will have the bar fight. If you don't want to have the bar fight, you can make him tired and he says, okay, I'd rather go home. So there are hundreds of ways to either strengthen possibilities or introduce completely new impulses into the human body. Now this is difficult because when I tell the entire story, it's easy to back engineer whom I'm talking about. And if it's clear whom I'm talking about, this guy is dead because he's not supposed to tell this story. So this makes it difficult, but I can share that I have second-hand information from somebody who is working on these programs and of people that got influenced by this program on his behalf, with an observed outcome that this perfectly makes impossible decisions possible. So I have very good confirmation that this is active in Germany, and we had a whistleblower in the US that definitely said that in the US-run programs, he was one of the guys constructing as an engineer most of the HARP facilities that are part of that system. And when he realized that they digitized the transhumanistic technology to follow a different agenda, he stepped out. And he took like 200 engineers with him that started to speak against that concept. And they silenced that group by killing all the relatives. But because they killed all of his relatives, he kept talking about. And there are interviews online with this guy. He said that actually 70% of the US population are in the state of being completely writable. 70%. I don't know the percentage in Europe. I would guess it's lower, because he also said whether it works or not is a matter of bad nutrition. We know the American lifestyle and the European lifestyle. So that disables, if the body is too healthy, it disables part of the transhumanistic technology. So this is basically where we stand, and we can relate many things of the actual political storyline with this. For example, the social distancing rules. They have problems to record the difference between two people, the thought patterns. If people get closer to each other, closer than 1.5 meters, then they can't distinguish the signals anymore. So they invent something or jump on a train and say, okay, because of Corona, we need social distancing, because their stupid technology doesn't work like predicted. This is kind of the tiny little points where you can see how powerful this agenda is unfolding within the actual human society.
Well, let me ask you some questions. Because if you say that this Satan consciousness is not present here anymore, but this consciousness is bipolar, doing anything like a mathematical algorithm, or up and down, left and right, forward and backward, like a machine, yeah. So if the intelligence community, like CIA's, Central Artificial Intelligence, the people are behind this, but the consciousness of these people are also satanic. There is no remorse, there is no guilt, there is no shame, there is no only thinking for control. So what is the difference? What is the difference than before and now? Because it seems to me that same agenda, same interest, same everything is the same. Yeah. And just one more question, and then I will let anybody else ask. We know that the people were controlled 100, 200 years ago. They are forced to go to wars, and there were no technology then, like this is like now.
Mm.
And I do know that someone influences our mind, but how if there is no technology? How?
Okay, if you want to have details of that, I just made a talk with Shai from Israel, Ahava 528 on YouTube, on that topic. So if you want to have the full version of it, you can go to that. It's in English as well. We do have Babylonian magic on this planet. This is the older version of mind control. We have religions that tell us that source is outside of us, making it impossible for us to connect to source within our heart chakra because we look at the wrong spot. This is one inversion. We have the monetary system introduced, and this is all Babylonian black magic. It all comes from the same source. We have the monetary system that is offering abundance on the mental plane level. If you have money, you can buy everything. This is a temptation to grab abundance. While with the monetization of more and more and more fields of daily life, it creates a hell of scarcity. Second inversion. And the third thing that is also very strongly coming from that field, but not only, it's also very strong in the Jewish culture, is this drama interaction. Perpetrator, victim, savior games, which this is basically the spiritual concept or the mental concept, or spiritual because it involves emotions as well, and this unfolds in hierarchies on the planet. Every hierarchy is basically a complex pattern established because of the people who join the hierarchy are basically perpetrators towards the one below them and victims to the ones above them, which creates a complex hierarchical pattern of drama interaction. And if you take those three together, the monetary system and the hierarchy are like a mechanical thing, like gears and chains. Take the monetary system as the chain that acts on distance, and the hierarchy as the gear that gives unchangeable commands. You must do that. And those two are interlinked, and they create a complete control system where decisions can be made by the families and by the black tradition. Because all they need to do if they want to have this or that, they have to move some of their money around, or they have to take their puppets and give commands in the hierarchies. And this is just working because people don't access their heart anymore. Because they don't have this internal awareness of what's wrong and right. They don't have the backbone to stand in self-responsibility. You can only base that backbone on your heart consciousness. This is why it's so easy and tempting to buy into the opposite, into other responsibility, and become members of hierarchies where somebody else is making the crucial decisions, and you're not responsible. Yeah. Oh, I kill humans. It's just a job. This is the mercenary variation, or in the military, you get a command and you do it, or you find yourself on the victim side a day later, victimized by your own military, by your own people. And this is how this old system worked, which is just a control system introduced as mental concepts and belief systems into the human society, unfolding its power. This is not from this planet. There are many, 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 many planets where these dark forces had the opportunity to experience how control systems work. And it's finely refined. This is basically the old type, the old-fashioned social engineering. Now, if you really want to override human consciousness, because one thing they could not delete, this is the wish of humans to do the right thing. You can manipulate humans into believing that wrong is right and right is wrong, and then predict that he will do the right thing that is the wrong one. This works, but when ugliness really becomes visible, and you don't have somebody that is 100% psychopath, that just has the belief systems in his mind and nothing else in his awareness, then you will face resistance from humans. Then you will face soldiers that go home. Like in Saudi Arabia, when the king of Saudi Arabia said, no, we make the ground invasion in Yemen, 10,000 soldiers just walked home. And this in a country where they behead people in the streets. They couldn't do it. And they refused. This was actually the first thing that, one of the first things that happened after the old control system with Satan in the core started to fail. That suddenly things were possible that normally are not possible because he had direct access to the people. He was hoovering basically in the planetary sphere, and everybody that was to whatever degree open to this duality, and with a duality to the dark side of collective consciousness, could be influenced. But it needed tricks like the Surah in the Quran that says, not in the name of Allah, this is missing in the first sentence, but it's okay to kill non-believers. Like the trick of the Catholic Church that said we need to save the souls of the savages by killing them. Yeah. This is how this mental thing works. And if you find a psychopath to do it, he will do it. And he will feel great about himself because he's doing the right thing. This is all the old patterns, and they got pretty far with this, in completely putting everything upside down and creating belief systems and control systems that are 100% a mirrored reflection of our true nature. But this has limits, and to overcome the limits, they bought into the idea of turning us completely into biorobots. So whenever a decision could be made that is not in their sense, doesn't meet their plans, they can just activate a piece of technology and override human decisions. This is the state of a biorobot, and it's not that it feels like slavery from inside out. From inside out, it all feels like your free will. Humans making their own decisions. Because the results of the ancient social engineering is so introduced into the complete mindset and into the habits that it appears natural to us. And the external signal, if you don't have the highly developed consciousness that has the capability to distinguish densities from each other, then you think it's you. If I get a command line from a binary AI, I can feel that this is within my lowest density. And the higher density, the emotional part with the trinary consciousness fields will not comply. Will say, well, no, this is not from you. This comes from the mental field, but not from you. I know your signature. It will feel like, ooh, no, not good. And the heart will go, the heart consciousness will go and say, okay, I just got a command line from some AI I don't need to follow because that was not my thought. It's easy to distinguish if the consciousness is aware of all the densities. And to get there, all it needs is to reverse what the satanic concept on the planet did, which is traumatizing humans. So you work on your trauma, you reactivate your chakras, you cleanse all the poisons out of the body that are associated with traumatizations, and then you highly raise your consciousness and cover more and more densities of the consciousness, basically activate all your chakras. And the heart chakra is fully activated, nobody can fool you. The other chakras, the higher ones, are also important, but this is not the topic of today. This is then when you start to transcend things and reach into the spiritual realm, then you will need the higher ones. But just as a being in this biosphere, just to fully develop, to clean the lower chakras and fully develop the heart chakra is absolutely enough to make this Harry Potter trick ridiculous, you know, when your biggest fear turns into the biggest joke. Then this is what AI becomes on the spot. It's just, you know, somebody's meddling in my thoughts. So what? People who are identified with their thinking, they don't even realize somebody's meddling in, and they just execute a command line.
Wonderful. Wonderful realization. I watched some movie last month, I think so, when the group of people that were very influenced make this quantum computer, and they have 6.2 or 6.5 billion biometrics data of all the humans in the world, which they are gathering through social network or by Google or by some Chinese websites, I don't know. And they are making this algorithm predicting the future and making the society in the way like this quantum computer can do, because all of the people are very much ritualistically made. They are very well, can be predicted their behavior, and this quantum computer is making simulation about this predictive behavior of all the people. But there was always some people that could not be predicted, and they are not fit into the algorithm of the computer, and the computer was always crashing down. And they are always finding these anomaly people that are not ritualistic, that cannot be read, that cannot be, let's say, not influenced, but they are so spontaneous, they are so living in the moment. And these people are very targeted from this computer to make out of this algorithm, or to not to be influential in the society, because the outer result of this algorithm was always wrong. So maybe we are now in some kind of a society that the man who is thinking with his own mind and doesn't want to be interfered for any other thought or any other information picture that is coming into his mind is the biggest enemy of the artificial world, that we are maybe one step inside of it.
The point is, it sounds like a good movie. The point is that the thing that makes the unpredictable behavior is the human heart. The minds are 100% predictable.
Can you say that everything that comes from the mind should be questioned, should be doubted? Anything, I mean anything, because you can never be sure where this information came from, where this picture came from, especially when we know that there are now technologies like voice-to-skull technology or any other 50, 60, 70 years old technology that can put in our minds pictures, thoughts, emotions, anything. And we think it's ours, but it's not ours.
I was insecure on that for many, many years. I, for a while, also declared my mind my enemy with my mind, which is ridiculous in a way. From the point I got by now, I would say rather the mind is an important, integral component of the 12-star heart consciousness. It is very difficult to make progress excluding the mind. If I want to heal a trauma, I need something to analyze what happened to me or what I did as a perpetrator. I need something to observe my body reflections of the internal work I do, to give names to my emotions. I need something that I need to make decisions, affirmations to kickstart spiritual healing processes. So I always keep an external spot somewhere that is observing what I do, that has a plan, that has discipline, and just make sure that I get myself out of the shit I'm in. And I couldn't do that without using my mental field. So I can't say per se it's a bad thing. What the second step above is learn to distinguish between your heart-based thinking, that is the voice of the true self, and your shadow. Every human has a shadow. It's like the true self wants to return to the divine, the shadow wants to experience more separation. The shadow will give you the best arguments not to self-heal. But this is not necessarily mind control. This is part of the divine concept of creating a realm to experience separation. We would not be here in this deep density to get this very intense learning processes that we get as humans if the idea from the divine wouldn't have been to send us into separation. So in a way, the shadow, my own shadow, is part of my game. It's part of my soul journey. And if I make the decision to return to the divine, to wake up to unity consciousness, then I should not listen to my shadow. If I have the feeling, wow, instead of making self-healing, maybe I should take a couple of weeks off, go to whatever, Prague, and fuck around with prostitutes. This might be an idea that could pop up, just for the fun of it. It's my shadow, it's not mind control. These are the two things that I can distinguish within myself. And I find it important to listen to both voices, because both belong to our soul journey. The external voices, they have a completely different signature. Like the first thing, the question, where in your body does a voice appear? Every voice that appears in my head is suspect. Every voice that I need to basically check on it. What is it, Oh, I had a voice in my head. What is it? Who's talking there? I know the signature of my shadow. I experienced enough from him to realize, he is the lazy old guy, he wants to have fun. Bastard. And sometimes you get voices where you don't know the signature, that feel completely unknown to you, that pop up in an area of your head where you never ever have voices at all normally. And then you can check, okay, what is it? Is this a telepathic connection? Is some spiritual being trying to contact me? Normally, this does not so much happen in the head. Is it a telepathic connection from a fellow human being? This does happen in the head. The brain is made for this, for telepathic communication. So check, who is it? Do I know the one? Normally, if somebody has the ability to contact you, it's somebody that is very close to you. You know his voice. Yeah, so just check on whatever comes in. Check and make your decision. What is it? The same with the emotional body. When you feel anything, whatever it is, check where it comes from. Are you playing drama interaction, absorbing the emotions of other people? Are you tapping into a collective field? Is it your divine self that relates to the experience you have? It can be anything, but it's very important to I mean, the body is a multitask perception organ. He's getting all input from all sides at the same time, and we are responsible for our filtering units. But most of the humans, they just fully identify with everything except of their heart. Yeah, and then they say, oh, these villains, they try to turn us into biorobots, they are bad, we hate them. It doesn't work like that. We are responsible for the quality of our perception, and this can be trained easily.
But if we don't know of any perception, then a mind perception or emotional perception that is going like thoughts through our body and can be detected on some kind of chakras that are some kind of, let's say, chemically engineered. Yeah, if you drink some alcohol or smoke some dope, you lose all your emotional responses that you have before, like fear. You don't know fear anymore. You don't.
Mm-hmm.
You are not anymore anxious. You are not more depressed as much as you use these chemical substances. That means that you cannot trust your emotional expression because it can be utilized by your thought or by any other substance like chemical or, let's say, electromagnetic wave.
Yeah, so, true. Alcohol kills compassion. Yeah. This is why I drink water.
No, we are talking now. I want to detect what I didn't want to make our mind our enemy. No, it's our mind. It's our mind. It is our it's our tool. We have to use it for our good purpose. But as we lose this exceptionally thing that we knew before, to use our mind, to control our mind, to use our soul, to our spirit body, to our goals like spiritual beings, we are now completely out of that and making our mind the biggest evolutionary step that can be controlled. What is this? What is this? So
it's a sad story.
Yeah, it's a sad story, and we are now breaking this story. You are helping me to break this story.
Yes.
To tell people that, okay, this is your mind. You are responsible what you are having in your mind, but you can also choose not to bind your attention to the thoughts that are coming to your mind, because as many as altruistic these thoughts can be, or loving, or sharing, or I don't know what, it is always something behind them, some kind of interest. People are now going to marriages because they love each other of the mind. They love them from the mind, and then within 1 year there is no love anymore because it wasn't. There was something behind this. Yeah, you have to find what. So you can probably help me, or we can help each other to find this parasite in our cell, in our body, in our astral energetical body. That is, I think so. His only purpose is to live, eating our intention, eating our energetical body, and we don't know shit about this. And this is the same one that runs this world, because the whole world is organized in that way that you are the entity or the body that everybody sucks up from it.
It is parasitic, but that's not a major issue, because all that the transhumanistic technology does, it is converting body heat into the power supply for the quantum computing. So all we lose is a bit of body heat, and this is not necessarily influencing. It's not training us on a level that would do major damage. I know from my experience two important sides of the awakening process. One is cleansing the body from all the toxins. You know, how can you awaken to your true spiritual existence if your third eye is completely calcified because of fluorine? You can't, because you lost. If you don't have eyes, you can't see. If you don't have a third eye because it's calcified, you can't see with it. And then one of the main sources of truth input that could tell you who you are and who you are not is shut down. This is why they propagate fluorine, put it into toothpaste, put it into drinking water, put it into salt, table salt. So yeah, there is a malvoyant agenda behind it, but still people buy into it in full self-responsibility. Nobody is forced to consume this poison. Same with agriculture. Glyphosate, pesticides, two components to replace your nervous system against electrosensitive, communicative, AI interface nervous tissue. Nobody is forcing you to eat supermarket crap. Or poison yourself with medications, you know, except of mandatory vaccines, which is becoming a problem nowadays. But till now, I found ways to get around that. So these are the things I found that I can do in self-responsibility, and nobody is able to keep me from doing it. This is drinking healthy water, eating healthy food, and not some supermarket bio qualities that are just labeled to be bio because the supermarkets are afraid of having the customers run away. Real quality, best from your own garden, grown with love. This is an act of self-love, to not to poison oneself. And the other thing is working yourself through the traumas, which I've been doing for myself, with my partner for the last years, which I did with customers a lot. So there's quite a bit of experience how this works, and if you want to have the full list in relation of healing ways in relation to this establishment of the old-fashioned mind control system, taking it step by step, you can check on my AquariusTechnologies.de website. There's an essay called The 7 Keys to the Friendly Takeover of Planet Earth by Humans, something like that. You find it under Veröffentlichungen. There's a lot of spiritual practice in it to do the trauma work on yourself. And then it's just the decision, you know. The easiest way is, if I hurt somebody in whatever way, I know I followed satanic manipulation. This is, you know, divine interaction does not create pain. Everything is harmonious with everything, and there's just love and sharing and creativity and joy. So if anything in your life is not following that beauty, you instantly know there's something within me that needs to be healed. and then you go for it. Like, for example, a story, we had neighbors, next village neighbors, and beautiful couple. She was Tai Chi teacher, he was a school teacher for problematic kids. They had a beautiful old water mill they reconstructed, and we got friends more on the level of exchanging building material for my farm, stuff coming from here to there. And also kind of it was an idea to exchange on the spiritual level. And then something developed between that lady and me that was completely within the boundaries of accepted social behavior. You know, she a woman, me a man, a little flirt, just to express your sympathy, tiny little dirty jokes on her side, like expressing possibilities. And at a certain point, she said that she had a dream that we were a married couple, and she asked me whether this can be another lifetime when we were a couple. And that was kind of the point, because my woman was on a journey at that time. And the timing was like, oh, you know, this is something that doesn't feel good anymore. This is what it was, the point where I stepped out of those games. And I just felt the need to clarify, you know, what is this? Are you trying to start something with me? Are you trying to start an affair, you know, with the dirty jokes, the little flirts? And now we're having a past lifetime marriage. You want to pull me in? Because we didn't have, I checked that, we didn't have that. And she said, no, there's nothing. I'm happy with my husband. And to that point, the story was perfect for me. You know, things happen like this. This is how I felt about it. Then my lady came back home, and I told her the story. And she was enraged, especially because this lady used the week of her not being there to get closer to me. If she would have told that story with a dream in front of her, no problem at all, but not behind her back. And the same she did with her husband. I tried to communicate with her about my perception of her dream, and she went like, Bernd is there. You know? So she was playing also things behind his back. And it got kind of a little bit ugly, but still, you know, a normal life for normal people. And then I just said to my lady, you know, I cleared the situation, don't worry. No need to get angry towards her. And then she was completely hurt by me and pissed off. That I decided rather to avoid any conflict, play the mediator, defend the woman, the other woman, instead of being in compassion with her pain about what was done to her. You know, just as an example for something in the daily life that goes wrong and creates pain. And then we separated for 2 to 3 days. She angry, me kind of in dire straits. Okay, what did I do wrong? I can't really see the point. And then I started to scan my system bioenergetically, what really happened at that moment. And I discovered that many things are personality-based behavior. A personality is an extension, an external organ of the mental field that is created mostly during childhood due to traumatization. If like your daddy is beating you on daily basis, when you tell him the truth, and he doesn't beat you when you lie, when you pretend to be the good boy, you build a liar personality. You internalize predictive behavior. If I lie, I live better. And then basically based on that trauma of being beaten up for the truth, the mental field, it's like learning to ride a bike, like the crocodile that snaps when it sees a fish. It's repeating this 500 times, even if it doesn't get it. It doesn't learn because reptilian, it's coming from the reptilian brain. Reptilian behavior is just a future prediction program, very AI-like, that has action-reaction patterns that it follows. And I had that action-reaction pattern. If I see conflict around me, I need to mediate. Because my parents were basically hating each other for a long time, but never fought. And I, as a tiny little child, I absorbed all that aggression, and I did everything to make sure that they don't start fighting, because I felt once they start fighting, either they kill each other or the family falls apart, and that is no option for a child. So I developed this mediator personality that jumped in on that spot. There was a conflict between my lady and that neighbor. I really enjoyed the social interaction with this family. I didn't want to lose it. I didn't want to lose my source for building materials, very egoistic. So I jumped in. It was like losing, like that trauma, losing family. No. Mediator jumps in and says something stupid that hurts. Not me, but my lady. And then we looked for another week. We tried to find ways to delete personalities, because they are not good for anything except of repetitive recursion of traumatic and traumatizing events. They were born in traumatizing events, and they reproduce traumatizing events for others because of the patterns that are inbuilt. So we looked for about a week until we found a method to delete personalities as a spiritual internal work. And then we checked for all of them, like it was the mediator, and I had 5 other personalities that actually displayed destructive, painful behavior for others. And we made the full analysis. And the beauty of it is I didn't lose any abilities. I still can mediate if I feel it necessary. But I don't have to when it's better to let people fight, because this is actually the experience they want and need, and that is supportive for future developments. I can make a choice, a heart-based choice again. So this is a little bit more fine-tuned, the ways we deal with our own thinking, trying to explore the possibilities of returning to our true nature. And the story is nice because it contains a method that can be applied. And it also contains a method to develop a method. See, do you get what I try to express with it?
Yes, I understand what you are talking about, because you want to say that our personalities are some kind of a program that is not doing any actions, but just react on the things as a pattern as he learned to do in previous life, maybe, or in childhood, probably from 1 to 7 years old. So this is the program that is very good for this, let's say, quantum computer, because
yes,
it can be predicted what you are going to do in any situation when your personality emerges out of this as not as a cause, but as a consequence of this happening. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's old because humans normally develop a number of personalities. Let's say up to 5, 8, 10 different personalities that jump in when they're activated. And when we still were in this satanic influence, and we had the Kundalini snake as an archon embedded in our biology, the Kundalini snake has tentacles. It was sitting with a head in the back of the head. Doesn't work like this. And the tentacles were plugged into, it's called access bars. It's used for spiritual programming and deprogramming. There's a method. If you look for access bars, you can find the teaching online. So basically, the Kundalini snake was controlling which personality was to be activated. This is how the satanic system used to completely control humans, by activating different personalities through the access bars. In the healing process also, when you try to spot your own personality, the first thing it needs to find the educational resources, like what type of trauma is on the basis of it. Realizing that the traumatizing situation is long over, so it's only a memory, and get the emotional part flowing again, releasing the blockage. Then by playing with this ping pong energetically between your personality and the trauma, you can actually feel which access bar it uses. It's just observation of internal bioenergetics. You can feel the impulse, the emotional impulse that comes from the trauma area, from the emotional body. Where does it go to in the head? And then when you think about reacting in that way, the bioenergetic becomes tangible at a certain point, pointing to the access bar that the personality had occupied. And the moment it pops out, you can grab it, pull it, intentionally release the trauma, put it in front of you, activate violet flame, and let it go up in flames. This is the technique we developed. And again, it's beautiful because you can see how a remain of the satanic rule with the archons on board today is abused by a tradition that is beyond the satanic, that just uses personalities or is happy that personalities are there because a personality is predictable. 100% predictable, like the crocodile. And if you map the personalities of a human, you just need to set the triggers to activate it, and you have predictable behavior. This is why I find it very important to get them out at an early stage of spiritual self-healing, because they are all completely mental, and they will never join into healing, self-healing. They are all in heavy resistance. And we lost so many friends on that topic, like people who wanted to join us, become part of a community, until their personalities started to jump into action. And then we could reflect on that and tell them how it works. And then you get sentences like a heavy perpetrator, that smashed other people against the wall, telling them, I'm going to smash your face until nobody is going to recognize you anymore. This type of perpetrator. Telling me, I can't let go of my perpetrator because I work on building sites in Berlin. And if I don't control and bully people, people will control and bully me. So I need that personality. And then community building, and this is maybe interesting for you because you are in a process of community building. Then community building is not possible. Just because personalities play out that old crap. And you can't build a new world if the trauma interaction, the trauma-based interaction of the old world is echoing through your personalities, recreating the same bullshit over and over and over again within the human relationships of a new community. If you want to build a new community, first you need to get the mechanics of the old world you want to leave out of your system. Because it's all in all of us. Not everything, but everybody carries his own story, carries his patterns, carries his traumas. And trauma is always restaging. So if you don't want to have restaged trauma within the community, get rid of the trauma. And then you can live in peace.
I don't want to monopolize this speak only to me and you. I'll just make one observation and then let anybody else to ask you whatever they want. So if you think that this intelligence or whatever it is wants us to behave like a program, to speak, to react from our personality side, is this, let's say, some kind of agenda to make these child abuse systems or systems of child sex abuse or any other abuses to make the trauma, to split the consciousness on many way personalities to be easier to control?
No, it fell apart. It used to be one agenda. There, I would say yes, historically this comes all from the same source. Today we have three different hierarchical structures that struggle for world domination. This is basically the old bloodline Satanists that dream of 95% extinction of humanity to enslave and control the rest. They are the ones into child sacrifice. They are the ones into adrenochrome, into all these really deep, black, dark stuff. Then you have the part that basically comes from spin-offs of the families that united with the intelligence communities, that just find world domination tempting because they're control freaks out of their own mindsets. This is, you know, where you can see they come from the dark agenda historically. They did not heal themselves, so they are completely mental. And the mental human says, I'm good, so if I control everything, everything is good. Very easy mindset,
yeah,
very predictable in a
mindset.
way. Yeah, very predictable in a way, very poor and without any awareness of the flips that are within human thinking and human culture. But I can understand those people, I can feel with those people. It's not, it's like the idea of what evil is completely falls apart when you understand how the human psyche and the human spirit acts and interacts. You can't say somebody is evil. You can say, well, he's reducing the free choice of others with whatever he's doing, and this is my definition of being evil. But it doesn't say anything about the internal view of how does it look like when a human behaves like this. You know, if you have sex, it's beautiful. If it's rape, it's crime, it's evil. The difference, the one who rapes reduces the free choice of the woman, takes it away. This is, you know, the most basic principle of what evil is. If I look from outside, if I look from inside, the basic principle of evil is restaging of trauma. whoever suffered trauma tries to, from the psychological level, whoever suffered a trauma has the impulse to restage it, to understand it, to get the opportunity to unblock the blockages that came with the trauma. And it doesn't matter whether he's on the victim side or on the perpetrator side. It's the same act. And from there we can have another view of it from the spiritual side, where actually it's like in a book, you have the character, the one who rapes, and the other character, the woman who is raped. In the book, they are separated characters. If you go into the mindset of the author, it is a story. And as a story, it is one. And from there, you can decide to look at reality from the creational point. That is always giving us the opportunity to experience all things from all sides. So you can't rape somebody without getting raped in the next lifetime. This is a basic principle of karma, to give us the opportunity to experience things in separation, to remount the creator perspective of the stories we live later from the unincarnated point of view, as the wisdom you take from these flip-flop experiences, being the rapist, being the raped one. And then you know much more about that story than anyone else. This is basically the creator point of view. This is why we do this from the very start. This is why we decided to incarnate here. So there again, there's no evil. So, and all through versions are valid. It's just a matter of perspective. So, but with all that, if you have all three perspectives, there's no need to again fall into drama interaction with the people who try to do this. What I can do if I'm on the middle level of that perception, I can say, okay, apparently I can see in the reality out there that there are perpetrators who try to turn me into a biorobot. I can see that. Okay, so I must look at myself, and apparently there is some victim psychology inside myself that basically is the other side of the coin. And I can see that everywhere.
So you develop the personality of the victim.
I don't develop it, I carry it for many, many incarnations. I carry all these drama personalities for many, many incarnations. But I can say, because I still can see those people trying to get hold of me, there must still be something on the victim side in me that is not healed yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then instead of being angry at them, which is just flip-flopping around, taking the position of the perpetrator against them, trying to get them into prison, hang them on the trees, or whatever, I go into myself and say, okay, I'm not living full self-responsibility yet. Because if I would, the creation around me would not display me someone who tries to jump in to be the complementary part to victimhood. If I wouldn't have that victimhood with me. And this is really, it's a point of resonance, and it's important, especially in the next month, because we seem to be heading towards some sort of timeline shift or timeline split. That people who have different orientations regarding what they want to experience in the coming years or coming incarnations, that we go down different paths. And I had, it was a very intense experience when I got news from somewhere that the Americans are not flying in just 10,000s of US soldiers, which are present in Germany for ages in any case. So there's a long culture living with occupation forces on a friendly basis. But that now they started to fly in academy mercenaries to Germany, thousands of them. And these are not people with whom I would like to find a friendly coexistence. Or I don't think that it's possible to find a friendly coexistence with this type of people, because they are the worst psychopath you can imagine. And for a moment, it just went like, just picturing how they were sitting in their helicopters, shooting civilians in Baghdad for fun, these people. There was a picture of, okay, what will it bring if these people start to meddle into German politic affairs? And when I listened to the story, it was all fine. And then I shared this story with my family friends, and I was not clear about my emotional state. And while sharing it, there was fear in me, which opened the possibility for drama interaction, future drama interaction with these people. And it was not only, normally it's just like you set your future timelines. It's a continuous process of deciding where you go. When you think something, when you feel something, this defines your future experience. It's like a linear process that every second the picture can change and you don't see big shifts. And with that thought, it was when I spoke about this in fear, it's like there was a shift in realities and I was in a different universe with this future reality. And then I realized what I did, and I just made the decision to get rid of that fear, delete the resonance point, delete any willingness to go into any future drama interaction with mercenaries. And it flipped back into my usual reality, where this future is no option. And the news that they send people in here is completely irrelevant. And I get these experiences from other people as well, that they experience like more and more Mandela effects, switching in between worlds that develop different quality. And the quality is not yet so far developed on the material plane. Only tiny little things differ. Like somebody told me he wanted to pick 2 roses growing in front of his home. And he stepped down, got the knife, cut one, wanted to cut the second one. He watched a second before, but just the act of cutting a rose was so low vibrant that he shifted into a reality where the second rose was not existing. So we get the first signs of separating timelines. And what timeline we are in, or we continue on, is very much depending on the spiritual setup that defines what the next experiences we need on soul level are. So if we are not through with fully understanding and experiencing duality, maybe there's a version of Gaia going into world domination via biorobot control freaks. Maybe the ones who really never even looked at any darkness within themselves. They go into this, let's kill 95% of them and enslave the rest reality. And maybe those who do their internal work and transcend all duality concepts within their own soul can go into a beautiful planetary future that gives us the opportunity to live in unity consciousness. It's whoever wants to dive into that, I really can recommend the website is zingdat.com. Zing with a Z, and then dad like daddy. He's a South African guy that is in contact with higher beings in the spiritual world. And he's especially there, he just dived into this planet and did his incarnations here, or all the incarnations he did was preparing for what he does now, which is offering humanity that path of awakening directly into unity consciousness from hardcore duality, which he says is unique, has not been tried ever before in the entire creation. Because normally people switch from civilizations. They go from peaceful, natural civilizations to the ones who live in the outskirts of the universe and act as intergalactic robbers and warmongers. So they experience the perpetrator, they experience the victim, they experience service for self, they experience service for others. And after switching around for a number of incarnations, there's enough experience to return into unity consciousness, which is higher density consciousness. And for the first time, because we are exactly on the front line, between service to self to service to others. It's like in a fractal. If the universe is a big fractal and some planets are this and other planets are something else, we're on the front line, and service to self and service to other is meddling in each other on the planet, going in fractals down to all these hierarchy interactions. So we have both experiences at the same time, which gives us the chance to directly go straight out of duality into unity consciousness if we decide so. And Zingdat is the one who basically has the duty, or who volunteered to assist humans who want to use the time that is still there till the event comes, till the timeline split comes, to systematically work on their own spiritual system, to be able to take that opportunity and that shift into unity consciousness. And it's a simple, he's so funny, he's so simple in what he does. It's like the first thing he does in his spiritual guidance, he's asking you, just take those options for yourself. Articulate the options. Say, I want to continue to play duality games. And when you do this, you get an emotional reaction from your system. And whether this is, yes, I want to play service to others, or yes, I want to be a perpetrator and rule them all, or it goes like, I had enough of this pain, you know? Enough is enough, I want out of here. This was my reaction on this little test, just to check where we stand, or where I stand. And since I had a clear answer on that, my spirit wants to get out of duality, I just use his meditations and his spiritual practices to systematically work on that. This is just now for the last month or so. The rest, I mean, I did the same. I did the same quality of things, or not quality, the same intention all the years before, trying to self-heal and get my stuff sorted. But it was more like maneuvering in the dark. He's delivering a reliable protocol. So whoever feels the urgent need to quickly proceed and process his own awakening and his own healing, as far as I have seen other people, this is the best source and guidance and zero intrusive into your affairs. Everything is your free will. Beautiful offer.
Thank you, Harald. I have no more questions, but please stay a little bit longer if anybody wants to ask you, not to be only me tonight. Evo ljudi, molim vas. So people, please, if you have some questions, please ask. You have the opportunity now, and I don't know when anymore. Harald, what do you think about this? Are you satisfied with this? What do you think?
I can see questions on
something.
Amra's side, but she is it? No mic?
Amra,
Ah, she doesn't have a mic.
napiši, write down. I have a question. Ajde, Yogi, reci. Otvori se, Yogi, on mute, evo. Sad si slobodan, možeš reći. Ja ću te unmutat. Ne čuješ se, ne znam zašto.
Okay.
Darf ich, smijem li? Dobar večer.
Dobar večer.
Ili se čujemo?
Je, čujemo se.
Ivana je tu iz Majkova. Hello, nice to hear you. Thank you so much, Harald. It was, I wrote everything down, so I'm so happy to meet you tonight. And I have not really question. I just wanted to say thank you to you and thank you to our živi čovjek people i zahvalit se svima i I don't know. Thank
Uživaj.
you. Hvala.
Ok, ako nema nikakvih pitanja, ja sam se ipak nadao da smo malo manje sramežljiva ekipa. Ok, there is one question for you, Harald.
Can I ask a question? I think my mic works now.
Yes. Please.
Harald, unique opportunity. Thank you for a wonderful presentation. I actually did a presentation 2 days ago that touched on some of your points. I just wanted actually to ask you if you are, just to set the stage, I learned this from my agnostic friends. And when you were talking about this mental computer and all the programs that are running and trying to take us to the Satan side of duality, are you familiar with the work of Wolfram von Eschenbach and the Parsifal Grail poem and the Minnesingers of that time? Because they are actually talking about the fact that any true seeker of the Grail who's actually trying to better himself, let's put it that way, will always come upon three distinct hurdles on his quest, which is money, fame, and adultery. So if you're not aware of that question, of that poem, I would like to comment that in my research, the programming has stayed the same to this day, and I'm trying to ask myself the question: how is it that somebody 7 or 8 centuries ago, I think it's from the 13th century, was able to discover that programming back then? So thank you if you can comment on this.
I don't know anything about what you related to. And I'm just confused with the typed questions. Did you type one in as well?
I think
No,
I actually
Okay. Fame, that kind of triggered me. You said money, fame, and adultery. You mean
adultery, sex,
sex.
basically, yes. And supposedly the programming has stayed the same to this day. And I found that in my own life experience, and I found that in my research. And later on, and just recently, maybe a year or so ago, I stumbled upon this in the work of Wolfram von Eschenbach, and he's a Bavarian knight and poem from the 13th century, and that kind of was really interesting.
Fame. The common denominator of the three is question of the energy source. You know, when you basically shut down your heart chakra, you disconnect yourself from source and Gaia energetically. And then you have a little food in your stomach, but this is letting you drop to extremely low energy levels unless you use society to recharge. Fame is about absorbing energy from the people who adore you. If you stand on a stage and everybody goes like, oh, how wonderful, full-scale energy towards you. If you stand on a stage and people expect healing and whatever from you, it goes like, and after 1 hour of speaking, I can't even stand straight because my kidneys scream, because these people drain me. Not every audience, but some audiences, depending on how they are energetically. This is fame with sexuality, it's the same. Sexuality is raising energies, and then the question is who's getting it. You know, normally women are the receiving end in healthy, natural,
yes,
because the man is the source from the sexual biological part. But a man who is drained, he will start with all sorts of ugly practices to instead suck the woman empty. Or the highest energy levels are within children. This is where the concept of child abuse comes from. People get more energy from that. What was the third one?
No, it's the three: fame, sex, and money.
Money.
If I can, there's really another interesting point in that poem is that the main character Parsifal actually makes the final leap into spiritual growth and overcomes those three obstacles when he is able to overthrow or take off his, they call it, I don't know in English, his mother's shirt, because his mom gave him the shirt when he started to go on the world travels. And that can be also like a parable to the parental programming and trauma that we all experience, more or less.
Yeah, money in a way is a representation of the energies, which binds that thing into hierarchy and social interaction. I mean, you can buy sex for money, you can buy attention with money, you can control people with money, which you automatically do if you buy something. You're controlling them into producing the good because they think they depend on that money. So it's also in a way an energetic game that is unfolding behind the numbers. Also what money is, it's projecting the diversity of life onto one linear scale. You know, we've got 10,000 things to name, and suddenly everything has a price you can compare, because this is cheaper than that. How stupid. I mean, what is this good for? For me, well, I was on that money topic for a long time, and I said my definition of happiness to do every single thing out of its unique purpose. This is happiness. And what do? We do all the things we do during daytime to earn money, although we hate the things we do, or many of us. And in the evening, we spend all this money on drugs to be able to forget that our day was a catastrophe. How stupid is that? You know, if you do every single thing out of its unique motivation, you're happy all day long and you can rest in the evening.
Exactly. Great, thank you. I just wanted to hear some of your comments. Thank you very much, and it's been a great presentation. Thank you.
May I tell something?
Please.
Hello, Harald.
Hi.
I'm the one who was writing you some email. Our idea, Dražen and me, we noticed you're working. I'm following you 10 years before. I was talking about music, and you said that you are playing something, if you can remember. Maybe you have too much emails. Your topic about black goo.
Mm-hmm.
It was very interesting. Can you tell us a couple things about that? It's on the chat, someone was asked to.
Mm-hmm.
Please.
To put it simple, importing satanic consciousness from one planet to another, the primary infection is with the crystalline mass storage devices for emotional fields and mental fields, plus a liquid quantum computer that is processing consciousness. These two are enough. The crystalline mass storage devices are known as the Ark of the Covenant and other arks. The Ark of the Covenant was in a double pyramid shape, like from the side looking at the Star of David, but looking from the top having the rectangular forms molded into each other. And other arcs have the triangular basic shape. So the triangular are for the second, third density emotional fields, and the rectangular are for the first density basic instinct level consciousness. If you mount a capstone made out of black goo and of alien black goo, satanic black goo, and an arc in the king's chamber of a pyramid, you get a working quantum computer that spreads its field over the planet. This is one of the first applications of this substance. Then it does what it does. It's related to the myth of what is the name of that bird that goes up in fire and revives from the ash? Phoenix. It relates to the myth of the phoenix from the ash, because these cultures based on pyramids self-destroy, and then from the ash of the culture, the core devices and artifacts are recovered. And the two devices are enough to restart a new cycle of a phoenix showdown. So this is what they did in Egypt. They mounted black goo capstone and the Hebrew Ark of the Covenant in the Pyramid of Gizeh, and restarted basically our actual running culture of satanic cults. And this was not only Egypt, it was also Babylonian. Egypt was more like a spin-off from the Babylonian, where they in the Babylonian mythology, these pyramids are the Tower of Babylon, where you can clearly see what it did to the consciousness field. Like before, people were on hard consciousness, they could communicate telepathically. It didn't matter what language they talked, because there was a hearable content level of language. Like today, animal communication works, and the dog says woof, and the animal communicator can read out his entire emotional process and his message from the sound, or add in telepathic communication. So the pyramids killed that off, and from then people needed language to communicate. This is basically the first application, and in the times when the phoenix is ash, you had all these low-level cultures, like a primitive Arab tribe finding meteorite material with alien black goo in the desert that started some sort of telepathic communication with people who found that meteorite piece. And the meteorite said, bring me blood and fire sacrifice and I will give you worldly power. And so they did. So you have all these low-level cultures starting from that material. And wherever you look at the highly advanced black magic cultures come from the core revivals of these cycles. And the low-level black magic cultures just had contact with this material. This is one aspect, but it doesn't mean that black goo is bad, because we have those two types. That black goo comes from the self-destroyed planet that was inhabited by the planetary spirit Satan, and Gaia has a black goo as well that carries her spirit. So most of the black goo you find, if you want to buy some from Gaia, it's traded as mumio or shialit, or at least these are the substances closest to the fully refined material. It doesn't mean that mumio is self-aware and can communicate. Not to that extent. So the fully refined quality you find basically as parts of oiled wells. A fraction comes out in Iran, they call it unrefinable oil, because it kills every refinery. So they pump it in big basins, and if you stand in front of the basin, Gaia comes out, forms some beautiful sculpture and talks to you. This is real earth type black goo. Self-aware, being able to move, extremely powerful. This is what was found in deposits on Falkland. This is why the war happened. Why the Brits wanted to reconquer Falkland, because they wanted to have access to this material. So there the stories start to begin adventurous, but I covered this in so many lectures. We don't need to go into too many deep details.
Yeah. So it's very important, what did you say about our Mother Gaia, Mumia? People usually don't know for that. I'm using Mumia from time to time, and every time it's changing me on a better way.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Can I just read some question? I read it on the chat.
Yes. Please
it will
do
be
so.
all for me. Sam Sokri, ili Shokre, one simple question. Any special material element you can suggest for making esoteric devices like orgonites and other quantum devices, which is specifically working for removal AI?
At the moment, I have only one device in action on my lot. And this is, I have to check for the spelling. I put in a link
Alcohol.
Alcohol?
No, I'm joking.
No, no, no. Okay, it's... Do we have something in English? I don't find a link in English. It's I give you one in German. Oops, chat here. It's called holofractal harmonizer. Okay, let me see. Sending to all. Okay. Holofractal harmonizer. It was designed by Majid Abdelaziz, built somewhere in a workshop in Germany. We bought it especially to break down 5G because we were quite heavily targeted in the last years. And since Elon Musk has his Starlink satellites in position, it's gotten much worse. Before they had like easygoing time spans of remeasuring where you are. So if you could realize this spot is where they target me, you just moved your bed a meter aside and could sleep easily. And now it's down to 15, 16 seconds of readjusting to hit you. So no way to escape. So we said we need to do something. And I heard some good reports on that device, and I'm friends with Majid in any case. So I asked how he invented this, and he said he was completely intuitive, zero knowledge in it, just meditative state and vision, and he saw what it needs on this purpose. And according to my perception, what it does, it creates some sort of hyperspace that does not necessarily take you in. But when you connect with the device, you entangle to it, and then you become part of the hyperspace. And in that hyperspace, all consciousness fields are pulled in, and then they go through the Sri Yantra, Flower of Life, and the Sri Yantra in 3D in crystal, and then through a dodecaeder that is adopted to the X shape, going a little bit north, bending north. And this is the way you put it in your building. So it's like a combination of things I met before, all highly active and with beautiful signatures combined in a unique way. There's more in it. There's a Tesla coil in it in the bottom. Agnihotra ash. So he combined all sorts of things, and we didn't sleep for a month. You know, go to bed. Basically, the body falls asleep, but the mind is awake all night. This type of states we had. And after we placed the device, we slept for a week. So I can say it does something. And from the symmetry of the dodecaeder, I can definitely say that it breaks up all binary fields and disperses them into a 12 star. This is what the dodecaeder does. So it's basically crashing. It's like a sieve that is crashing the binary field structures to bits and pieces when they go through. Of course, it doesn't help with a direct hit. You know, if you have an infrared 1.2 micrometer pulsed infrared laser directly on your head, you can't do anything to make that laser go through the dodecahedron, so it stays on your head.
No,
But this
thank
is,
you.
yeah,
No,
this
thank
is,
you.
this is still, you can put yourself into a hyperspace, and this device is helpful creating that hyperspace.
Thank you, Harold. Please, couple years ago, some they called spaceship in was about the Moscow, about the Beijing. What's happened? It was holographic picture, or what do you know about it? What do you think about it?
I don't know anything. I saw the pictures, but I don't know anything about the background. Because I don't know anything, I tend to also not think anything. Because this is what we call speculation. What I can tell to the topic of ships, the good guys stay in the background because they are waiting for our awakening. And the bad guys meddle into our affairs. So whoever speaks up and meddles into affairs in a pushy way, you can see if it's meddling or if it's an offer for help. I don't like that external influence. We did, as humanity, we did a good job dealing with Satan, and now it's about time to self-heal on our own to gather the most intense and most fruitful harvest from this learning journey. It doesn't need anybody to replace bad conditions with good conditions to make us not needing to learn our lesson. You know what I mean? So this is why I'm not waiting for any aliens to invade, or if they dematerialize the nukes humans drop, I'm happy. Yeah. This is something I can relate to and say, okay, thanks for not needing to go now through the next level of madness, but not in the sense of these saviors. And the only ones I had contact with, direct contact, not direct, indirect contact, were the blue avians, which was a very important time for me to learn about how things work, because there was a quite rather darkish group in England that invited me and said they've been looking for me for ages. I am the 5th person. They couldn't find, now they found me, and they wanted to unearth an ark, the Irish Ark, from London, bring it to Ireland and discharge it into the Earth ley line grid. And it's very difficult to, they say, to find the people who can handle an ark without getting killed. And they were looking for me because I'm the one who can do that. That was the story they told me. And so we went to the place where this ark is buried, just to get to know each other. And then there was a date. It was exactly the same day when CERN was opening its physics activities. The portal opening at CERN was coordinated with that day. And luckily I made some homework and found out that it's not a good idea to discharge trauma into the planetary ley line grid, because this is exactly what the expulsion from paradise was. So I'm not going to go there and renew that act. So I made sure that this entire thing was cancelled. But when being with them, before I found out what they actually asked me for, the Blue Avians made a nice show for me to convince me that I need to be in that story, including artificial visions of previous incarnations that were shot into me from a spacecraft with a beam straight into my body, displaying artifacts and architecture I was basically going to see 10 minutes later. They wanted to convince me that I buried it there. You know, if you bury it somewhere, you're the one to get it out, of course, predictive behavior. So they showed me the place where it was buried before I got there in this vision, showing me how I bury it. Tricky bastards. And those are, you know, the ones displayed on the ark. You know, the blue avians with the wings. So,
I mean, I don't know, you know.
So that was my experience with aliens, and that's it. And they just showed up in the sky. And of course, if you sit here in Germany in the evening and you have the time to stare into the skies, you see all sorts of things. You see non-satellite, non-plane flying objects, moving lights all over the day, not day, all over the night. So it's not a question whether there's somebody out there. I mean, even NASA admits that we have 800 crafts entering the Earth atmosphere every day that are so big that they would not burn in the entry phase, but would crash down, but nothing crashes down. So these are apparently also ships that have a protective shield to get through in one piece. So yeah, it's like we are like people sitting on the main train station, stuffed with people, pretending we're alone.
Thank you, Harald. I'm grateful. Thank you very much.
Okay. I think that it is time to say goodbye. Do you agree with me, Harald?
Harald is tired. He
I'm
was
okay.
working all day.
I'm okay. No, I'm a bit like no comparisons. I am sometimes I make lectures and I go up to 8 hours with zero preparation.
Mm-hmm. So this is nothing. You can do it more.
This is so you know, when questions come, questions are answered. If you think this is a round thing now and there's nothing to add, nothing is to add. If somebody is sitting on a burning question and doesn't dare to just come forward, it's okay. I don't have additional duties today.
Yeah.
We are waiting the time that you will come to us to spend some good days.
Yes. It reminds me of the third temptation, adultery. I made some inquiries about the place he wanted to invite me. The people I asked, they just laughed their heads off. And they said, this is the place where you want to go. You know, what is your woman going to think about you? You know, this is the place where in summertime all these beautiful Croatian girls dance half naked all day.
Yeah, that's why we called you there.
Ask Dražen. It's true, ask Dražen.
Yeah.
So that was the third temptation for me to
And-
not achieve the Holy Grail.
Yeah, and we always resist that.
Corona saved me. Thanks, Corona.
Yeah, good tell. Okay, people, that's enough. Maybe some other time we'll call Harald again and he will tell us another story. But for now, thank you very much. Thank you, Harald, and see you hopefully again. For every other of you, tomorrow there are 2 more meetings. Dusan Dunjar at 6 o'clock and me at 8:30. So see you tomorrow. Thank you, people. Let's say, Harald.
Tomorrow, do you plan to have me in, or is it just an open circle where I can join in?
No, we have 2 lectures tomorrow. A guest from Serbia, Dusan Dunjar, and I am doing this last. But if you want to join in, please. But it will be on Croatian language. So
okay. No, then definitely not.
Yeah. But I am also having this thought to organize this because every people said that meeting was fantastic. The energy was very nice, very good. The topics were very fine. The guests are fabulous. So why not meet it again? Maybe in 1 month or
Yes. Feel free. Feel free. I enjoy these type of
of the conversations. These topics are very.
Yeah, I love to listen to myself.
Okay, I'll send you the link. I send you the link for this. Everything is recorded. Okay. Thank you, Harald.
See you.
Ljudi, ciao, vidimo se.
Ciao, bye. Thank you.
Kao, sve bi bilo u redu da Krle ne zajebava.
I
Čo ti tamo?
da
Shut
nisi
up,
lonac
you
na
moron.
poklopac. Eto, lonac na poklopac.
Aj, bom, dečki.
Shut up, you moron.